My name is Guion Foreman, and I am the president of the Chicago Police Board, and I am calling to order the board's June 18th public meeting. To protect the public health in response to the COVID-19 outbreak, as permitted by Governor Pritzker's executive orders 2020-07 and 2020-39, this meeting is taking place remotely. This meeting is open to the public via audio conference and is also being carried live by CAN TV. Those participating by phone are on mute in order to reduce background noise and interruptions. We have a court reporter making a transcript of this meeting. I will begin by taking attendance so it is clear who is participating in the meeting. Please say here after I read your name. Police Board Vice President Paula Wolf.
Here.
Police Board Member Matthew Crowell.
Here.
Police Board Member Michael Eady.
Here.
Police Board Member Steve Flores.
Here.
Police Board Member Jorge Montes. Jorge, he's frozen right now. We'll come back to Jorge.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Here.
Thank you. Board Member John O'Malley.
Here.
Board Member Rhoda Sweeney. You're on mute, Rhoda.
Here.
Thank you. Board Member Andrea Zopp. You're on mute. Superintendent of Police David Brown.
Here.
General Counsel to the Superintendent Dana O'Malley.
Here.
Chief Administrator of the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, or COPA, Sydney Roberts.
Here.
Thank you. Newly appointed Deputy Inspector General for the Public Safety, Deborah Witzberg.
Here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Executive Director of the Police Board, Max Caproni.
Oh, I'm here, Dan. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Tina Scahill?
She just entered in the chat that she's here, so she must be having trouble with her audio.
We have some Zooming taking technical difficulties. So Tina Scahill is here as well. As we begin this evening's meeting, I would like to talk about the recent events in our city and throughout the nation. Each of us has been deeply affected by the murder of George Floyd and the events that followed. As you may know, I've experienced firsthand the impacts of the protests here in Chicago. And without getting into a lot of details, I was indeed involved in a situation where I was struck by a police officer in an unfortunate situation that took place on the 31st, as has been previously reported. It is an ongoing investigation. I have filed a complaint with COPA. And so I actually am kind of going through the process that we, the police board, are typically called upon to make decisions on. While I'm not, happy the fact that I'm going through this situation, it has allowed me to kind of take a different perspective and take the perspective of looking at this. I think in the moment that we're looking for right now, in terms of what can we do to improve the process of accountability when it comes to public safety. And so, I'm looking forward to working through the process, to continuing to work with members of the public, CPD, and the monitor to ensure that we can come up with a system that allows us all, as residents of the city of Chicago, to get what we're looking for, right? To make sure that we can have a city that we're all proud of, that police can be treated as professionals, and that they can get the resources they need to indeed act very professionally. And so looking forward to kind of working through this process. And again, as I kind of said in my statement, we can't allow the momentum of the uprisings to be lost by focusing on micro incidents, but rather to use that energy to demand the accountability that we can see and we can feel. I want to now turn the role of the police board as Chicago moves forward with comprehensive police reform. First, the police board will be at the table with others involved in city policy making, the police department, COPA, the mayor's office, and city council, where we as a board will strongly advocate for policies that bring about meaningful police reform and greater accountability. We see this moment offering an opportunity to leverage the consent decree, the new superintendent, the mayor's longstanding commitment to reform, and the public's clear message about reform to make dramatic changes in the way the police accountability system operates in Chicago. Second, the police board will be bringing to these conversations an independent and community-based voice. We, the board, are a diverse group of Chicagoans who have a stake in making sure that every person in our city receives the most constitutional, respectful, and professional police protection and service possible. And more importantly, we are committed to listening to you and all members of the public as you speak about your experiences with the police and your ideas for change. As we discovered during our search for a new superintendent, which led us to recommend now Superintendent David Brown to the mayor, your input is invaluable, and we will bring it with us in all of our conversations as we come together as a city to heal, reconcile, and rise to meet the challenges before us. Now we will have comments from Superintendent Brown, followed by remarks from COPA Chief Administrator Roberts. Superintendent Brown.
Good evening to the members of the Chicago Police Board and members of the public that are joining us tonight on this virtual platform. I must begin by wishing happy Father's Day to all the dads and other father figures throughout Chicago. We need positive role models now more than ever. I want to thank all the men that go out every day and set a good example for our young people. This has been a trying time for the Chicago Police Department and police departments throughout the country. The death of George Floyd was both tragic and heartbreaking. As people watched the video of Floyd's final moments, many were overcome with emotion, as I was. This emotional response manifested itself in several days of protests, 10 days to be exact. Chicago police officers have been there to protect the First Amendment rights of those marching in neighborhoods throughout the city. Unfortunately, there were also those that saw these peaceful protests as an opportunity to steal and vandalize property. The bulk of the lawlessness happened over the weekend that spanned from May 29th to May 31st. Chicago police arrested 1,360 individuals during this 3-day span. Most of those arrests were related to disorderly conduct charges tied to the period of civil unrest. There were also 213 people arrested for looting during that 2-day weekend. Officers worked 12-hour shifts and all their days off were canceled during those 10 days. During those 10 days also, 538 guns were recovered by our officers during a 10-day period. CPD also saw more than 200 officers injured on duty during the stretch of civil unrest. Chicago police officers will return to 12-hour days tomorrow for the Juneteenth weekend. Also canceled some days off for specific teams on a voluntary basis throughout the weekend. I've seen tremendous resolve in our officers throughout this trying time, but I also have seen misconduct that is unacceptable. I stripped several officers of their police powers because of this misconduct. Some officers were spat on. They received verbal abuse. They dodged rocks and bottles and bricks and maintained their composure. But others disgraced the star. This weekend, many of the officers will also be sacrificing time with their families to protect the city. And I want to personally thank those officers for their commitment and dedication. I also want to let the people of Chicago know that the loud cries of police reform have not fallen on deaf ears. The consent decree gives Chicago an advantage over other cities that are also looking to make meaningful changes to their departments. But we do see this consent decree as a floor, not a ceiling. We have a roadmap for reform, and we have already begun our journey. Now, changing a police department is never easy. We have a long, long road ahead, but I am convinced that we can and will change for the better. Working together, I believe this city can become the benchmark for others to emulate. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Superintendent. Chief Roberts.
As the superintendent mentioned, and Mr. President, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I was one of those people that was overcome by what I witnessed. Watching Mr. Floyd take his last breath was just heart-wrenching. I saw myself as the mother that I am. I saw myself as a minority, witnessing something that I personally have never witnessed before. And in response to the aftermath of that, the protests that we saw unfolding on a national level and on a city level here in Chicago, COPA, we went into quick action and formed a specialized team of investigators and began reviewing and responding to complaints in real time by early Saturday morning. And while we have witnessed officers exercising restraint and professionalism during these tense confrontations, we too have witnessed officers engaging in behavior, particularly uses of force that have appeared excessive. Over the 2-week period from May 29th through June 11th, COPA received a total of 591 complaints. Now, to put this in context, on a monthly basis, we receive between 400 and 450 complaints. In a 10-day period, we surpassed that, receiving 591 complaints. Of those complaints, we have identified 371, which we believe, as reported, are protest related. Now, of those, approximately 139 fall within COPA's jurisdiction. And as you know, COPA deals with the most egregious uses of force, verbal abuse, unreasonable, denial of counsel, as well as improper search and seizure. The remainder 232 have been referred to the department's Bureau of Internal Affairs. The complaints received included allegations of excessive force, denial of counsel, improper search and seizure, and verbal abuse. Complaints within the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Internal Affairs have included allegations of failure to activate body-worn camera, the absence or concealment of name tags, unprofessional conduct, and other operational violations. Specific to the videos that have been widely circulated on social media and news outlets, we have received them and we are investigating them. Unlike many other cities around the country, the breadth of COPA's investigative jurisdiction and the ability to independently conduct thorough investigations is what sets us apart from many other cities whose civilian oversight body lacks the authority to actually investigate. In accordance with COPA's commitment to transparency, I'm pleased to announce today that COPA has launched on its website specific protests, complaint information, and investigative data. Once on our website, you can click on case and data on our website tab and scroll down to the data portal. And there you will find information regarding how many complaints we received, how those complaints were distributed, the protest-related complaints. You will also see the investigative activity that we have taken to date. Right now, we have 139 pending protest-related complaints. We have requested that in six cases that officers be stripped and or modified of their police powers. To date, in 2 of those cases, approximately 3 officers have been relieved of their power. We have also referred cases to the Bureau of Internal Affairs and have been working with both the Cook County State's Attorney's Office as well as the Federal Bureau of Investigation in their criminal investigations. I want to conclude that COPA must and will conduct fair, independent, objective, and thorough investigations of not only these complaints, but of all complaints we have received. I also want to announce that COPA is going to continue to forge forward in our negotiations with the unions relative to their accountability provisions to make some changes in the FOP contract. COPA is committed to working with the Mayor's Office, the Attorney General's Office, as well as the Office of the Governor to address broader statewide police reform initiatives. And as the superintendent mentioned, COPA 2 believes that the tenets of the consent decree are the floor, and we remain committed to surpassing what has been asked and complying with the consent decree. Finally, I'd like to say to the community and to all those that are listening, if you have been a victim of police misconduct or have witnessed police misconduct, please contact our office at 312-746-COPA or www.chicagocopa.org/complaints. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. We will now proceed to other items on the meeting agenda. We will have time at the end of the public meeting, at the end of the meeting for public comments. Once again, those participating by phone are currently on mute in order to reduce background noise and disruptions. When we get to the public comment portion of the meeting, we will unmute each speaker. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the board's May 21st regular public meeting?
This is Paula Wolf. I move approval.
Yes, this is Michael Eady. I second the motion.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. The next regular public meeting will be held Thursday, July 16th at 7:30 p.m. Whether this will be an in-person meeting or a remote meeting will be determined closer to the meeting date. The police board, as authorized by the Open Meetings Act, has considered in a closed meeting several disciplinary cases. The board will now take final action on these cases. Regarding case number 19, PB 2965, is there a motion to find Police Officer Virginia O'Donnell guilty of being intoxicated while on duty, disobeying a direct order, and violating medical role procedures, and to discharge her from the Chicago Police Department?
This is Paula Wolf. So moved.
Michael Eady, second.
I will now call on the members of the board for their votes. Wolf.
Aye.
Crowell.
Aye.
Eady.
Aye.
Flores.
Aye.
Montez.
Aye.
O'Malley.
Aye.
Sweeney. You're on mute.
Aye.
Zop.
Aye.
And myself, I vote in favor of the motion. Voting in favor are board members Wolf, Crowell, Eady, Flores, Montez, O'Malley, Sweeney, Zop, and myself. The motion passes. Is there a motion to adopt the written findings and decisions that have been reviewed by all members who participated in the case?
This is Paula Wolf. So moved.
Michael Eady, second.
All in favor, please say aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Regarding case number 19 PB 2957, is there a motion to find Police Officer Tabitha Tabb not guilty of making false reports, guilty of disobeying orders regarding secondary employment, and to suspend her from the Chicago Police Department for a period of 120 days?
This is Paula Wolf. So moved.
Michael Eady, second.
I will now call on members of the board for their votes. Wolf,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
and then we had another aye from somebody in the background there too. Eady,
Aye.
Flores,
Aye.
Montez,
Aye.
O'Malley,
Aye.
Sweeney,
Aye.
Zop,
Aye.
and I also vote in favor of the motion. Voting in favor are board members Wolf, Crowell, Eady, Flores, Montez, O'Malley, Sweeney, Zop, and myself. The motion passes. Is there a motion to adopt the written findings and decisions that have been reviewed by all board members who participated in the case?
This is Paula Wolf. So moved.
Michael Eady, second.
All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Regarding case number 19 PB 2967, is there a motion to find police officer Jose Velasquez guilty of engaging in an unjustified altercation and displaying his weapon while intoxicated and off duty, and to suspend him from the police department for a period of 180 days? Is there a motion?
So moved.
And who is that? Is that Judge Sweeney? That was for the
Yes,
record.
that was her.
For the record, that was Judge Sweeney. Is there a second?
Yes,
Second.
Mike.
Okay, John O'Malley with the second. I will now call on members of the board for their votes. Wolf,
This is Paula Wolf. I vote against the motion. I vote to discharge the officer from the department.
Crowell,
Aye.
Edie,
Aye.
Flores,
Aye.
Montez,
Aye.
O'Malley,
Aye.
Sweeney,
Aye.
Zop,
Aye.
and I vote against the motion. I vote to discharge the officer from the department. Voting in favor are board members Crowell, Edie, Flores, Montez, O'Malley, Sweeney, Zop. Vice President Wolf and I are opposed. The motion passes. Is there a motion to adopt the written findings and decisions and dissent, excuse me, that have been reviewed by all board members who participated in the case?
This is Paula Wolf. So moved.
Michael Eady, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. The decisions in the case on which the board took final action this evening will be entered as of today's date and will be issued to the parties. The decisions will then be posted on the board's website. Is there a motion to close a series of executive sessions for the purposes of considering personnel matters and litigation as authorized by sections 2C1, 3, 4, and 11 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act?
This is Paula Wolf. I make that motion.
Reverend Eady, I second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? A report of disciplinary actions taken by the board during the previous month has been made available on the board's website. Proposed amendments to the police board's rules of procedure. Last month, I announced that the board plans to consider at future public meetings several proposed amendments to its rules of procedure. We posted a draft of the proposed amendments on our website for public comment, and we will post an updated draft that has been revised in response to the comments that we received. The general orders and other directives issued by the superintendent during the previous month are posted on the police department's website. I will now call upon members of the public who signed up in advance to speak. Each speaker will be unmuted after I call his or her name. I'll tell you in advance, we have 26 speakers today, so we are going to have to stick very firmly to the 2 minutes. The first speaker is Miss Ofoa.
Hello, my name is Ugochi Ofoha. I'm a resident of the 3rd Ward of Chicago. I'm here today to speak on the state of policing in this country and specifically the CPD. I'll do that by way of an analogy. On June 13th, 2020, the United States Department of Agriculture published a recall of 42,922 pounds of ground beef due to possible E. coli contamination. E. coli is a potentially deadly bacterium. They also state that there has been no confirmed reports of adverse reactions due to the consumption of these specific products. This is a very basic and standard approach to public health and safety. When there's a possibility of death, products are recalled. They didn't wait for confirmed reports of adverse reactions to issue the recall. They don't know which products could potentially cause death, so they recalled them all. They don't wait for someone to get sick and possibly die. We shouldn't wait for the next person to be brutalized or killed by the CPD before making a drastic but needed change. We need to take the same approach as the USDA, recall all police officers, defund the police, abolish CPD. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Jennifer Ahmed.
Hello, my name is Jen Ahmed. Thank you for your time and attention today. For 5 generations, my family and I have called Chicago, specifically Bridgeport, home. For us, police officers were revered. I was taught police unions are vital because they protect the officers so that officers can protect us all. But we can no longer deny reality. FOP's unchecked power has gone on too far for too long. We hear about bad apples, but the rest of that adage is that they spoil the bunch. And so the belief that we can reform the system we currently have is plainly naive. I know it can be hard to face this, but this current lack of trust in the police is a direct result of the police's own response to public outcries for accountability. The police and FOP have tipped their hand. We know their only priority is preserving the institution of policing, even if it means hurting the citizens or even fellow officers, all while taking over $1 billion and counting of our taxes, then telling us that we should be grateful that they even come to work at all. This is the looting that we care about. We also cannot continue to ignore that many Chicagoans, including myself, are now afraid that calling the police could be a death sentence of an innocent civilian. That is no longer an unwarranted fear. This alone is completely enough to destroy the credibility of this institution. And if it's not, what would be? In the immediate, we need real civilian oversight by CPAC in addition to COPA. We need CPD out of CPS. We need an independent public database tracking police misconduct, a licensing bureau for police. All union contract accountability provisions should be determined by a public vote. No more taxpayer money to pay for disgraced pensions or for brutality and police misconduct. If these measures mean officers and potential officers don't want to be police anymore, then we should be grateful we deterred those who would refuse to work in a job that requires this kind of accountability. As crazy as dismantling the police sounded to me a few weeks ago, and as momentous an undertaking as it is, we no longer have a choice. We are done throwing good money after bad. We need to focus on crime prevention, not crime reaction. We have to be honest. Policing is not the best solution we have. And that is okay, because at the end of the day, it's only a job. And we have to eliminate or rethink jobs that society no longer needs. We have a chance to harness our power and spirit as Chicagoans and find a new, better way forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker has not signed in, Courtney Anthony. Courtney Anthony has not signed in. The next speaker, Sabrina Hahn, has not signed in. The next speaker, Joanne Dunker.
Hi, this is Joanne Dunker. I would just like to say that I would like to thank the good police officers that chose this profession to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Ray Dunker.
No comment.
Next speaker, Lydia, Miss Lydia, I'm gonna say.
Yes, good evening. I'm Lydia Matyoshenko. Thank you to the board for the opportunity to speak. I'm making the following 14 police reform requests. They will also be emailed to the executive director after this meeting. Number 1, add 8 hours of training on community policing and racial biases in order to address police officers' explicit and implicit bias. Number 2, issue an apology to the community for the history of biased policing in order to restore community trust. Number 3, make police disciplinary records unrestricted in order to hold police officers and their departments accountable. Number 4, replace incentivized ticketing and quotas with another metric of productivity that protects the highly vulnerable in society. Number 5, raise the bar on hiring standards by requiring police officers to log at least 1,000 hours. Number 6, raise the bar on hiring by testing for emotional regulation to ensure police officers can manage their emotions in the heat of the moment. Number 7, raise the bar on hiring by giving them a servant leadership assessment to ensure they operate with the right spirit of leadership. Number 8, raise the bar on hiring by giving them a cultural diversity assessment to see where they stand in their views to cultural diversity. Number 9, raise the bar on hiring by offering incoming officers a pay increase to attract the highest quality employees. Number 10, increase hotspot policing to clear out crime in areas that produce the most shootings and homicides. Number 11, offer more social resources for the economically poor and disadvantaged to show you are on their side for personal growth. Number 12, partner with local spiritual leaders to address and resolve community issues together. Number 13, walk the beat or walk in the community to add a personal touch and build community trust. And number 14, send at least one police officer to walk or kneel with protesters to show solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Kevin Woods.
Hi. If we are going to pursue peace in our city and change the way civilians and law enforcement interact, we need to start by first establishing a relationship. African Americans are estranged from Chicago Police Department. We feel like targets, and we have seen the pictures and read the stories of police around the country using mugshots of African American males as target practice. And through the Freedom of Information Act request back in 2018 in this very city, the data released by the Chicago Police Department showed us that over a span of only 10 years, 72% of the victims of use of force by Chicago police were African American. In stating this, the intention is not to incite rage or hate, but to give context on the things that we have come to understand about police in our United States and in our beloved city. Now, we know there has been a world leader who encourages an increased amount of aggression enforced, and has said, don't be too nice to potential criminals. We know that he encourages you to be rougher and quote unquote tough, like immigration and customs enforcement officers. But for once, what if a stranger approached you dressed in black and blue with a badge and feels like a natural acquaintance or a friend here to help? Will that impact your response to their presence and purpose, even if they are questioning you? What if for once a police officer smiled at an African American in this city? You see, racism is about behaviors, not feelings, and we can work together to stop it. If that is truly a goal and a mindset that the Chicago municipalities share with the communities that make up the city, filled with minorities that made up the majority of essential workers through the long months of the pandemic. We know that a lot of police in our city immediately relate and are friendly with Caucasians in Chicago. We know that inequality and bias not only exists, but engulfs us and has overwhelmed African American communities in Chicago for generations. We know that at the first incoming dispatch call of danger and black men in the same sentence, there is a rush of adrenaline that flows through the blood of Chicago police officers. And when you arrive to the scenes that you have been summoned to, the adrenaline comes with you. And we even know that you need a certain amount of arrest as a part of your obligation and duty to protect and serve. But with all that we know, we still don't know why it is that with the power you are given by the justice system and by the people and the training afforded to you by the police academies, that you use these powers and skills to senselessly and consistently murder and incarcerate African American United States citizens. Why are African American citizens in Chicago 10 to 14 times more likely to have force used against them compared to whites in the city? Is it because you hate African Americans? Is there an underlying policy amongst you that
I apologize. I'm not sure if he could hear me or not, but I apologize. We have to stop at the 2 minutes. But I definitely look forward to continuing our interaction. Next speaker, Matt McKenna.
Thank you for your time. In 2019, Chicago's Office of the Inspector General found that the department failed to complete required reviews of body camera footage and hadn't established a standardized process to do that. I would like the 2020 report to show that the CPD takes these findings seriously. I believe this is mandatory in establishing transparency and accountability and professionalism within the department that Mr. Foreman mentioned at the beginning of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent, would you like to address that?
Yes, we are taking it very seriously. We have implemented the requirements, again, as the consent decree, as a floor and not a ceiling. We are committed and dedicated to ensuring that we comply and that we review all body camera footage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Next speaker is Patricia Carrillo.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Pratha Boxton. I lived in the 24th Ward. I'm just calling to give my District 11 Police Department accolades. They have been wonderful in our community. They work with us. We had a tremendous drug problem in our community, and without their help, we'll still be going through it. We had gunshots every night, guys out here partying every night. We have such a great relationship with the District 11 Police Department. And with everything that's going on, I just want to thank them for everything they have been doing in our community. So, you know, I keep hearing everything what's going on in the world right now with the police department. Yes, we have a lot of bad apples, but we have some great police officers also in this department. And I just want to give them praise. They do a wonderful job each and every day over here where we live. And I thank them very much. And Commander Spencer, Sergeant Allen, the whole CAPS department at District 11 have been doing a wonderful job on our block. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Hugo Lemon.
Hi, everybody. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you to the board to let us the opportunity to speak. We just want to thank you, the 11th District. The 11th District is working really hard with us. I know it's number one in crime and drug sellings and stuff, but they're doing their best to help our citizens. And I just want to thank you and stay safe up there. I really got nothing prepared, so thank you, everybody, for your service.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Monty Rollerson.
Hello, everyone. I'm presently serving as the DAC chair of the 3rd District. I want to do a special welcome to Superintendent Brown. Welcome aboard. Can't wait to meet you physically. I'd like to share these comments at this time. To the City of Chicago and the Chicago Police Department, a petition to affirm the following. City of Chicago to enforce laws to prevent, abate illegal and unwanted partying in our neighborhoods and on our residential blocks. We, the legal and registered residents of dwellings in wards 5, 6, and 8, have lost the ability to peacefully live and thrive in our homes and surroundings due to the onslaught torment of non-residents or adjutants present on our blocks. On or about May 25th, 2020, approximately 160 to 300 non-resident adjutants again arrived on the blocks of 7200 through 7400 South Drexel, Ingleside, Maryland, and Ellis to 77th and Dancy areas with the result of an organized effort to assault and battery of persons, to illegally use handguns, loud talk and use of offensive language, prevent the normal flow of street traffic, play excessively loud music publicly, execute illegal sale of narcotics, promote public lewd physical behavior, place and leave excessive debris on the ground in the streets and around homes, urinate and defecate in public areas near homes, execute other antisocial and disruptive behavior. This assault against the peaceful, abiding residents of the aforementioned areas continues. I'll turn the next portion of my report over to Ms. Lori Burns.
Well, unfortunately, you're out of time at this point. So we would like to hear from Ms. Burns, maybe next meeting, or if you want to follow up with Max with an email, we can make sure that we get your comments. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jennifer Edwards.
Can we revisit our January 16th report where we summarize our activities in 2019 to bring suggestions to the police department to improve community policing in our area? We mentioned a few proposals: the expanded Cadet Program, a Good Business Neighbor Project, a safety-centered backyard conversations and coffee with the captain. We were told we would be connected with the public safety department in the city, but were never contacted. We recognize the critical times in our city and across the nation and hope the urgency of working with our community is realized as priority. The reconnecting of communities and policing should begin with a common strategy of community policing in all districts, rather than leaving the structure up to the various districts. Civilian police personnel should be supported as well as increasing their numbers. Training should be constant, consistent, and comparable, supporting cultural interactions and cross-training of police policies and directives. An example of this is the trespassing affidavit, which is processed differently in different districts. We also suggest implementation of many of the items mentioned in the community conversation: beat integrity, foot patrol, alternate setting community beat meetings, and monthly beat meetings. Strategies that can be implemented without extra cost and should support communication to increase community police trust. Our new strategy will be to explain the idea of outposts in our communities. These can be created by using cadets and community officers to free up some of the duties of police officers. The outposts can be acquired from the city's numerous owned abandoned buildings in our area. Lastly, we ask for a meeting with Superintendent Brown and the South and Far South Side Community Group presidents to continue to talk about community.
I apologize, but because we do have such a long list today, Ms. Edwards, I know you're going to get me later. I had to mute you, but absolutely. Superintendent Brown, I'll ask Max to make sure that we get you a copy of the recommendation that was presented. It was a well thought through. They met with the community. They met with some of your officers, came together as a group to try to see how their organizations, it's multiple organizations, how they can come together to be helpful to CPD. So we'll make sure that you get a copy of some of their recommendations and try to make sure that we can set up a time when you can get a chance to meet with their group. I got a chance to meet with them, and I found it very informative, and a group of residents who are absolutely willing to be partners in helping to improve communities. Next speaker is June Norfleet.
Well, good evening, neighbors and colleagues. I come to you live from a positive loitering that's happening on 71st Place and Woodlawn. We're going to talk about Cadet Program. We must continue our advocacy of the Cadet Program, which features the following. Our suggestions for expansion are: first, it is the policy in the program as outlined in the Employee Resource EOS-29 that is effective February 21st, 2019. This cadet program is an elective program that should be available to high school juniors age 17 with a 2.0 GPA, attendance record of 85% or better. It is a program which provides for ongoing assessment and audits of their performance. Training will begin from the onset and will last until the cadet's 23rd birthday or until they transition to another assignment. It is a program that advocates for classes which are accredited by the Illinois Board of Education and will be counted toward their graduation or diploma. It is a program which provides intern work with the CPD. It is a program which transitions into full-time employment via the department's community policing program. It is a program which requires advanced college-level training, at least a minimum of 60 hours. It is a program that could transition into a position of community resource officers or community aid, which we will talk about members of communities organized to win at our next police board meeting. Upon graduation, any cadet that continues employment through this program should receive the following: a full-time position compensated at $41,600, adjusted to future rates. The program will reflect the population demographics in the city. I now turn my time over to my colleague, Lori Burns.
Ms. Burns.
All right, so the program is commensurate with health care benefits. The program begins with a minimum of 100 cadets. The program directly reports to either the superintendent or his or her designee. The program is marketed as an elite status position and creatively marketed within our schools. Why, you may ask? Because African Americans are 32% of the city's population, but only 19% of our police force. We want robust, intelligent public guardians, those who are informed in protecting and respecting the laws of this land. To discuss this plan in more detail, we are asking that the board and Superintendent Brown meet with Southside and Far Southside residents now. Thank you very much. And attached is the original proposal that we've discussed at previous board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Matt Brandon.
Good evening, President Foreman, members of the board, Superintendent Brown, and staff. Communities Organized to Win does not support the current calls to defund the police. Our position, we believe, is not contrary to the request to re-examine ways to reallocate funding within the department, but is taken cognizant of the need for a respectful security component that is both responsive to and takes responsibility for the consequences of their actions in our communities. We oppose the proposed school resource officer strategy and stand with the Chicago Teachers Union on using those resources instead for hiring nurses and counselors and social workers, professionals capable of providing the services so desperately needed for our children and their families. We oppose qualified immunity. We understand the dangers that police officers confront on a daily basis, but believe that the city of Chicago's indemnification of officers for actions taken that are legal and compliant with department policies, procedures, and general orders is sufficient. We oppose chokeholds, period. We oppose the elimination of the residency requirement, not only for police officers, but for all city employees. The violence exhibited by police across this country against Black men and women is not a result of inadequate training, but rather a result of the systematic racism that stains our nation's history to this day. Kyle will make a presentation at the next board's meeting that is intended to address the need for the CPD to reflect the communities it serves. We again extend an open invitation to Superintendent Brown to meet with community leaders from the South and Far South Side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, John Perryman.
Hi, good evening. I'm talking about a problem that I brought up last month. I want to thank the superintendent for meeting with me yesterday with the commander of the 11th, even though it took a little bit of cajoling. I do want to talk about that conversation. It seems that in the 11th, Commander Spencer is continuing to use poor strategies that simply don't work. We were talking about a specific drug market that's impacting the use of the actual park, Garfield Park. Commander Spencer thinks sending tactical teams just to arrest a bunch of people for possession works. That does not work. Tactical teams are essentially another gang on the street. And arresting people for possession doesn't really deter anything. What we really need is troubled buildings to activate and be much more thorough. Troubled businesses, there's a business there that's had many problems, yet they still stand. Also, we need undercover buys so we get the right people, because often the tactical will just grab whoever, and that's creating a big problem. Another problem is that I'm from this meeting is that the CAPS program is in disarray in the 11th. Sergeant Allen's a very nice man, but it's not going well. He doesn't seem to be very supported, and there's no real strategies. The community policing should drive your strategies. Instead, it's kind of an afterthought. So I want to put the head out there. I still have not received a strategy for how they're policing the park. It's been over a month, so which makes me think there is no strategy, which is a major problem. And I will wrap up with asking the superintendent what kind of follow-through I can expect from his office going forward on these specific issues.
Superintendent?
Yes, as we spoke on yesterday, we'll have a written response to the efforts of the 11th District in the park, Garfield Park specifically, to you a week from yesterday, as we discussed.
A week from yesterday? Okay. And what about the open air drug market? Are we going to get an update on that? Because the big problem we have is that police will come in, arrest a bunch of people for possession, which does not work, and then they walk away saying we did our job, and the problems persist. So what follow through can we get on that issue?
The same as we mentioned yesterday on our call. We'll have responses to you on each of the items you brought up in our meeting yesterday.
All right, 1 week from yesterday. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Brad Redrick.
Yes, good evening, and thank you to the police board for letting us speak. Welcome to Superintendent Brown. I want to piggyback a little bit on a problem that was mentioned earlier about this midnight block party caravan that's going on. It's been moving around. The behavior that was described, what was left out was that we have strippers that have been unemployed by the COVID-19 shutdown, and so that's part of the activity. There's money being made. They're selling guns. They're selling stolen stuff that probably was looted from the stores in the back of trunks. So this is a caravan of about 300 to 500 kids moving around between districts. So in some situations, I know some people who in a different district, when they left our area, they went into their area and the police were called for 5 hours and did not show up. This activity has been going on like over the last 3 weeks solid. And last weekend we had somebody that got shot that had something to do, it was one of the leaders of this group. So it's a very dangerous activity that's going on. And the kids are clever, they're using the smartphones. So I just wanted to point out that perhaps the department can come with a strategy that can address the fact that how they move around. When they leave one district, they go to another, how they can be followed or maybe tracked on social media so that this problem can be done away with. My other concern is with community policing. We understand that they're trying to push caps out, but community policing is the only way to police. And so the relationship building that's done through beat integrity and foot patrol and bike patrols, we need for that to happen. We've been given a lot of excuses, and perhaps you can work on that, Superintendent Brown. You're supposed to be the community policing specialist that was brought in. My last point has to do with answering the phone in the districts. The officers really need for somebody.
I apologize, but because of the time constraints right now, I can't allow us to go over the time frame. But Mr. Redrick, if you could follow up with Max and we can make sure that we get those comments to the superintendent, and superintendent, we can follow up with you. Next speaker, Reagan Peabody.
That's me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Foreman. First, I would like to say hello to Superintendent Brown. Superintendent Brown, I would say your resolve is beyond reproach. If you can make it through this, you've been put into a firestorm, and that is not lost on the people of Chicago. You were put into a mess that we have never seen before. Second of all, I would like to congratulate the chairman and the co-chairman, Wolf. Now, you're telling me this officer brandishes a weapon while he was inebriated, yet you're keeping him on the force. That is not a policy of violation. Tucking in your shirt, Rule 37, not identifying yourself to any member of the public or any CPD employee on or off duty is a policy violation. That's a criminal violation. That man should be fired. I have video at disorderlyproductnews.com of officers urinating on buildings, of Commander Spencer spitting on me when he was a lieutenant. He got 2 merit promotions because he couldn't pass the sergeant's, nor could he pass the lieutenant's exam. And he assaulted and battered me. And in the middle of an internal affairs investigation, right after Beck got rid of merit promotions, they put him up to commander. Without merit promotions, he would still be an officer. Now, I want to give my hope and trust into you, Mr. Brown. I understand that you've come into a firestorm that nobody's ever seen the likes of. But Snelling, the man urinating on the building, the people in 11 watched me get jumped by a mob because they don't like my reporting on Disorderly Product News. Now, the stuff I have on Disorderly Product News that I've caught officers doing, it makes the guy giving 2 fingers look like a nun. But that doesn't make the news, so there's no big Bobby Rush scandal, but go to Disorderly Product News and see what's really going on the streets.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Tim Compton.
First, to the board, thank you for your service. My name is Tim Compton. I'm a Chicago resident of 10 years, an executive at a local tech company, and a father of 2 children who happily attend CPS. Like so many Americans, I've been deeply disturbed by the recent events against African Americans that have been brought to national attention. This has led me to review my own city's police force and a police board that monitors it. I've truly appreciated the data that is available on police performance and discipline action through the board website. I encourage all Chicagoans to review the material on the website. However, this information on discipline, and perhaps more importantly, delay of discipline, is incredible. I simply don't know how it can take up to 2 years to reprimand an officer for egregious performance. An organization that needs 2 years to terminate an employee who shows up drunk can never be a high-achieving organization. Perhaps I'm being naive, thinking a person who carries a gun every day could be terminated immediately when they show poor judgment. In my effort to see how this can be continually led to the police union contract and the protections it gives police officers at the detriment of the people they are supposed to protect. I ask the board and all who have influence over the contract negotiations to push to have a contract that allows fair and immediate discipline like every other functioning organization in this city. I speak as a resident, business leader, and father. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, I just lost my list. Sorry, the wonders of technology. Next speaker.
Gero
DeSantos. Gero DeSantos. Next
He wasn't
speaker.
able to connect yet.
Okay. Next speaker, CPD Transparency.
Good evening. We don't need a new cop academy. We need new cops. Rahm Emanuel and Ed Siskel were using the new cop academy for only one reason, re-election. Rahm and Ed sacrificed everything and everyone in their failed campaign. I've FOIA'd some of CPD's training materials. They're written at a 6th grade level, maybe 3rd grade. One very important question about CPD engaging with the community. Just as there are trained fighters, there are those trained in rational argument. CPD can't win these fights, ever. How is CPD going to handle that truth now that there are cameras? We know how CPD handled it before cameras. Why does CPD insist all internal investigations be kept hidden, dragged out for years until the public grows forgetful? The consent decree has an inherent contradiction. The consent decree makes leading by example the byword for police reform. At his retirement press conference, Eddie Johnson said now the example had been set. He meant by him. He also said he was reading the book of Job when he decided to retire. Leading by example is an ancient idea. The Greco-Roman moralists taught it, and free competition of ideas is essential. The Greeks and Romans attacked charlatans. Charlatan was their term. If leading by example is the byword, CPD needs to stop attacking cameras in the First Amendment, and CPD needs to start attacking its many charlatans. There's a no-tell motel just north of CPD headquarters. Has anyone inquired why Eddie Johnson's wife was made commander? Don't build Rahm Emanuel's New Cop Academy. It's a monument to himself. His New Cop Academy was to make voters forget what he did with Laquan McDonald. If you want to reduce police misconduct, train a camera at them. Make that New Cop Academy Spartan as hell. Okay.
Thank you. Next speaker is Flora Suttle.
Good evening. I'd like to say hello to everybody there on the board and welcome Superintendent Brown. I am not anti-police. I'm anti-vigilante police, such as the police strategies and methods that have been used during the John Burge reign, and they're still around, let me read a little something for you here. Derek Suttle was shot multiple times by an off-duty police officer. That officer was black. Didn't hear anything about that. That was February 12, 2011. He was black. This officer was in uniform. He confronted Derek in the alley when Suttle was driving a van, and the officer shot him. Then he killed him. The officer handcuffed Derek's shot wrist arm to the steering wheel of the vehicle that Derek was in. The officer stated that he was in fear of his life after Derek maneuvered his vehicle. The officer fell. IPRA investigated for 19 months. They justified it. They used the officer's wife as a witness. Her name is Nashawn Bond, and the officer's name is Ward Bond. He's assigned to the Ward 9th District, still working. I'm asking Superintendent Brown to look into this case of Derek Suttle. COPA just agreed with IPRA. I'm asking that you contact the state's attorney's office, the FBI, the Illinois Attorney General, the DOJ, to investigate and prosecute police officer Ward Bond for wrongdoing in the death of Derek Suttle. I'm going to finish this by saying what our family has been doing.
Sorry, Ms. Suttle, your 2 minutes is up. I apologize. The next speaker is Samuel Day.
Hello. I want to thank the board for having this opportunity to speak and also to listen to the concerns of the other citizens here, which are heartfelt and which I can relate to. I'm from Nobel Neighbors, it's an organization, West Humboldt Park, and we've worked with the 15th, 25th, and 11th District. Our contact has been good. With the 11th District CAPS, they've been responsive and very creative. I've sent a letter to Max Carbonari that I'd like you to make part of the record. It's too long in detail, but I wanted to speak about one strategy and one initiative that's recent. The strategy is basic. We talk about the problems and what we can do, but the strategy that we've pursued and the support of the CPD is to build relationships. That's the bottom line. To do that takes time, but it takes structures. 100 Blocks, 100 Churches is one structure we participated in. Meet meetings monthly. We have something called the Tuesday Breakfast. And these are periodic constructive contexts in which people meet and come to know each other as individuals. The initiative I wanted to speak about is something called the Westside Talent Show. And this is an initiative of a variety of organizations, but with the strong support of the 11th District CPD, Sergeant Allen and Velda Bruner. What it is a virtual concert, free and featuring local talent. People tune in every Friday at 7 o'clock, and this Friday we're going to be celebrating Juneteenth. And we get together, and my hope is that this can lead to something bigger, and all who are listening to this can join us. If not this Friday, then the Friday after or whenever at 7 o'clock. Link can be found at the CPD 11th District or at Nobel Neighbors. And it's a chance to get to know people, not just once or once in a year, but to build relationships, and it's to entertain. So it's not exactly a discussion there like we're having here tonight. It's more for entertainment. Anyway, that's my report on a creative initiative which is due to the Chicago Police Department, and
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. The next speaker is Robert Moore.
Yeah, Mr. Foreman, can you hear me? It's Robert Moore.
Yes, sir, Mr. Moore.
Okay, first of all, did you get my email from Dr. Caproni? Mr. Foreman.
I'm not sure if I got your email. It's been a long month. I'm not. If you
all right.
sent the email, I got it.
I asked them 4 times to send it to you. I'll try again. But it's noted that your efforts to keep the balls in the air and enable the participation in the meetings is, notwithstanding the fact that I'm a contester of the continued existence of the charter of the city of Chicago, one of the most impressive things I've seen in a long time. I don't get the impression you're just going through the motions. So it's a negative endorsement. I find nothing wrong in your conduct, and much of it is very impressive. On to the next issue. Mr. Superintendent Brown, is your email address D as in David, N as in Nancy, B as in Best, at, and then City of Chicago, whatever is to the right of the A? I sent you an email today, and I sent it to Dr. Caproni. It's about a number of different petitions to various grand juries, which I'm inviting you to join me in or to simply initiate yourself. Please provide me your email address.
You can communicate. Yes, sir. You can communicate through Max.
Okay, my communication was received.
We'll make sure that whatever you sent to Max, that I get a copy of it and the superintendent gets a copy. I don't want to use up all of your time.
Okay, thank
you. Mr. Moore? Okay. All right. At this time, now see, I have to get back to, at this time, all speakers who signed up in advance to speak have been recognized. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
This is Paul Wolf. I move to adjourn.
This is Steve Flores. I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the public participation. Thank you all. Everyone, please stay safe. And please spread the word. We look forward to next month, increased participation. Thank you very much for CAN TV. We are going to continue the efforts to bring the police board meetings to the public by partnering with CAN TV to make sure that all Chicagoans have access to this important resource during this important period of time. Thank you very much.